Hello and welcome to a short overview of section 7.3, mass and temperature. We're going to be taking a look at mass in the metric system. Temperature, of course, is in Celsius, and converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. Mass, first of all, is not the same as weight. Mass is the measure of amount of matter in an object. It doesn't change. Weight is the effects of gravity on that object. That can vary. For example, what I weigh here standing in Maine is very different from standing on the moon. There, I would weigh only about a sixth of what I weigh here because the gravitational force is different. However, my mass, the amount of space I take up, the amount of matter I have, would not have changed. Okay, although weight and mass are not the same, on Earth they're proportional. So for all intents and purposes, we're probably going to interchange those two terms in this chapter, but I just wanted to be technically correct. Here's an example again about the moon. The gravity force on Earth is 6 times as great as that on the moon. A kilogram is the basic unit of mass in the metric system, whereas in customary standard measurements that we're used to talking about pounds. A kilogram is 2.2 pounds. If you go buy a kilo of butter, you basically have the equivalent of like almost 9 sticks of butter. A gram is relatively small, and we might use that kind of thinking about little things like that you would normally weigh in ounces. For example, a nickel weighs about 5 grams. A milligram is even smaller, and you're going to use that in your scientific and medical fields. For example, if you've had any medication or bought any over-the-counter anything recently, you would have noticed it's probably labeled in terms of milligrams. If we talk about a metric ton, that is not the same as a customary ton that we talk about. 1 ton, TON, is 2,000 pounds. 1 metric ton, TONNE, is 1,000 kilograms, or actually 2,200 pounds. Again, in this section, you're going to be looking at what are the appropriate units. The weight of a child would be in kilograms. The weight of a locomotive would be in metric tons. A calculator, you'd weigh it in grams. A box of cereal in grams. A laptop computer, grams, more likely kilograms. A spider, milligrams, so forth. Okay, so some of your exercises are going to be asking you to be aware of those. Converting back and forth, 1 cubic centimeter is the same as 1 milliliter in volume, and it weighs 1 gram. 1 cubic decimeter would hold 1 liter, and it would weigh 1 kilogram. 1 cubic meter would hold a kiloliter and weigh a ton, or 1,000 kilograms. So first, we're going to do things like find the volume of a fish tank. Now, the first thing that you want to do when you see a problem like this is stop and ask yourself, is everything in the same units? Because if it's not, you cannot move ahead to compute the volume. Here we have a fish tank where they gave me the dimensions in meters, centimeters, and millimeters. That's not very helpful. First, we need to convert everything to the same unit and then compute volume and determine mass in a number of liters. So we're going to convert everything to meters first, and then we do volume equals length times width times height. So we find that it's 0.125 cubic decimeters. Each cubic meters, not decimeters, cubic meters. Each cubic meter holds 1 kiloliter of water, which means that this is 0.125 kiloliters, or remember again, move the decimal 3 places to the right, 125 liters of water. In metric, we measure temperature with Celsius. You're probably familiar with seeing thermometers that have both values on them. 32 degrees Celsius is equal to 32 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 0 degrees Celsius. Water boils at 100 Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit. Just for sake of comparison, if it's 0 Celsius, it's 32 Fahrenheit. If it's 20 Celsius, it's almost 70 degrees. It's a really nice spring day. Typically, a hotel room would be set at 21 degrees Celsius, which is 70 degrees. If you've been to the doctor or the hospital or anything like that recently, your temperature was taken, you may have heard something close to 37 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to 98.6 body temperature. And again, if you're boiling water, it's 100 Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit. If you're baking something at 350 Fahrenheit, that's about 177 Celsius. Again, you're going to have questions here where you're going to choose the appropriate temperature. So take some time to look at those. And then we're going to talk about converting. If you are given a Celsius temperature, you are going to multiply it by 9, divide it by 5, and then add 32. If you're given a Fahrenheit temperature, the first thing you do is what's in parentheses. Remember the order of operations we reviewed in the beginning. Fahrenheit temperature minus 32, then multiply it by 5 and divide by 9. Wine cellar is 55 degrees Fahrenheit. What would be the equivalent Celsius? 55 minus 32 is 23 times 5 divided by 9. Just a little under 13 degrees Celsius. I have a hot water heater set at 60 degrees Celsius. What's that in Fahrenheit? 60 times 9 divided by 5. 108 plus 32 is about 140 degrees